Unions making a comeback in America, maybe at the NCAA. I don't know. It's college football. The National Labor Relations Board has approved a petition from a group of Northwestern University football players who said that they wanted to form a union, that they're actually employees of Northwestern University. The university controls the hours that they work. It's the hours of a full-time job. They control the conditions and the terms and the place, and they basically meet all the definitions of an employee. Now, so far, they're not asking for money. In fact, we don't know what they might be asking for. In fact, so far, they haven't formed a union, but they have the right to begin the process, which can be an arduous process. And then if they get one, there's speculation that perhaps they'll be looking for things like health care. Who knows? But James Sherk is with us. He is a senior policy analyst in labor economics at the Heritage Foundation, heritage.org. And I'm curious. Hey, James, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I'm curious your take on this, other than, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What's your take on it?
Well, I think the notion of unionizing college sports is pretty absurd. I think it would devastate the sports as we've known it, and it would just be an absolute mess.
But college sports are a big business. I mean, you've got college. Back 40 years ago, you had college coaches who were making $35,000 and $40,000 a year. Now you've got coaches who are making millions.
I do agree. The NCAA ought not be allowed to tell colleges that they can't pay their players. These players bring in millions for their schools, and if they want to sign licensure deals with outside companies, or if a school is willing to pay them a salary to play at their team, they ought not be allowed to forbid that. I agree that it's pretty absurd that they say that these athletes who bring in millions, tens of millions, in some cases, for their schools can't get compensated. I just don't think that unionizing college sports would just make a mess of things.
So let me get this straight. You agree that they're employees?
I agree that if they want to license their image, I agree that if they want to if a college is willing to pay them, the college ought to be allowed to pay them.
Right. So you agree that they're employees, but you don't think employees should have the right to unionize?
Well, I think that if you take a look at the NLRB jurisdiction, they only cover private sector workers. So anyone in a state school wouldn't qualify. And anyone under this interpretation who doesn't get a scholarship also doesn't qualify. I think unionizing, what would that be, a third or so of the players in college sports, while the other two-thirds would not be. On top of which,
wait a minute, isn't Northwestern a state school? Oh, it's not. It's a private school.
No. They would have no jurisdiction if this were a state school.
I see.
So Michigan State.
So Northwestern can do it, but MSU can't.
Exactly. I'm a Michigan fan, and it was a heartbreaking loss. But that said, they would not be eligible.
Well, let's change the NLRB rules then.
Well, that would take an act of Congress. The board really has no jurisdiction there. And I think even beyond that, the notion, are you going to have, do you want a third of the teams going on strike before March Madness starts? Are you going to have college students?
If that's what it takes for them to get treated fairly.
Yeah, I think there's another route to this. There's an antitrust lawsuit being waged against the NCAA right now as we speak. And we'll see how it shakes out. But I think a pretty good reading under antitrust law would be that they're not allowed to tell the colleges they can't compensate the workers.
Well, Big League Football has an exemption from, the NFL has an exemption from antitrust, do they not?
NFL does. NCAA does not.
Right.
And so there's no carve-out for them. I think the way to deal with this is just allow this lawsuit to proceed, right. And we'll see what happens. But I think they've got a strong case that it's acting like a monopoly, and you get rid of that prohibition on compensating the workers. And I think a lot of the grievances that are being raised are legitimate grievances, and would be solved when that happens. I just don't think a union is the best answer for these players.
Just because, in general, you don't like unions?
Because unions often create more problems. You take a look at what happened to Major League Baseball when you had the strike in the mid-'90s, or NFL, the way the player strikes have driven away a lot of the audience from the sports.
I don't think so. Those player strikes have done a lot for the players. Those players used to be badly abused.
Well,
they're doing much better now.
If you take a look at the overall audience and the attendance of the game, the like, for the overall game,
the NFL is doing great. Come on. And not only that, the NFL is, talk about socialism. This is the most socialist institution in the United States. Who gets first draft pick every year?
The team. Look, I don't think you ought to have an antitrust exemption for NFL, and I think the notion.
I agree with you on that.
Nonprofit is frankly quite absurd, and taxpayer dollars certainly should not be subsidizing the construction of these stadiums. I mean, they're a profitable industry, and they ought not be coming at the end of.
Why should George Bush make $14 million on a $700,000 investment just by basically hustling a city? I mean, you've got owners. Here's another thing that really blows my mind. I think the Packers are the only reasonable model in the entire country where you've got basically the community owning the team. It was originally the Meat Packers Union, but every place else in the country, it's like you got to find a billionaire to own a team. This makes no sense to me.
No, I mean it's. Well, what I find, again, you look at Minnesota, where you've got the teams coming to the legislature and saying we want a new stadium. Give us more tax dollars. I mean, these are quite profitable teams, and if they're not profitable, why should the taxpayers be the one having to cough up more in terms of their property taxes or their sales tax to fund this? I mean, it's a kind of cronyism that really ought not.
So let's do away with the antitrust exemption for the NFL, and let's change the rules so that local communities can buy the teams that are in their communities, and that way you're not going to have billionaires playing towns off. Hey, Brooklyn, if you won't give me a new stadium, I'm going to go to Los Angeles.
Well, if by local communities you mean individuals and not the city government,
yeah,
I don't think having.
That's what I'm talking about. You've got people all over Green Bay who owns, and they've been passing the stock down on their family for 4 generations.
No, by all means, go for it. I think that's a great model. I have friends whose family own Packer stock, and they're never going to sell that, and they're very proud of it. And I think that's a much better model than the taxpayers being told, why don't you cough up money in order to fund these, in many cases, quite profitable franchises.
Right. So back to Northwestern University. In essence, your argument is these guys are employees. They do have legitimate grievances that should be addressed, just not via the form of a union.
Well, I wouldn't. I know. Right now, I'm not sure if you can qualify the scholarship as being an employee. I wouldn't quite.
Well, it's a thing of value.
But I think the school ought to be allowed to. If you can recruit someone, and you say you offer them $50,000, $100,000 a year to play on your college basketball team because they're a good player, by all means, the workers, the players, however you want to describe it, they ought to be allowed to take that money.
Right, and they're facing. I mean, they're facing career-ending injuries every day.
No, exactly. And for 98, 99%.
But why shouldn't they be able to be represented by a democratic institution? I mean, unions are the last democratic institution in the workplace in America. Why shouldn't they be able to have a democracy that they're part of?
I mean, if they want to have a players' association, but the notion of going on strike to say let's have earlier later class start times or a better dorms.
But the employers can do that. The employers can play any kind of games they want. They can fire people. They could change time. I mean, they typically wouldn't because it wouldn't be in their best interest. But basically, the employers have all the power. Why are you opposed to the workers having power?
The power I propose,
other than that, it might inconvenience you as a fan.
No, the power that they ought to have is get rid of this cartel. I mean, get rid of the NCAA's ability to tell the workers that they can't, or the players, or again, however you want to describe it.
Who's initiated the antitrust action, legal action?
That I don't know.
The lawsuit.
I'd have to take a look at that.
That's interesting. James Sherk, good talking with you. Senior Policy Analyst in Labor Economics at the Heritage Foundation. Thank you for being with us, sir.
Thank you.
Heritage.org, of course, the website. We'll be right back.